Alright, this article I wanted to go over with you guys is from Frontiers in Neuroscience, published on February 7th of 2018, and I'm really excited about this because it's called The Vagus Nerve at the Interface of the Microbiota-Gut-Brain Axis. The vagus nerve in the interface of the microbiota-gut-brain axis. They're discussing the role of the nervous system and the microbes in the gut, and the communication that those two have together, and basically how any dysfunction or interference between those can relate to different issues. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a couple quotes here. All right, the perturbation of this axis, the microbiota-gut-brain axis, the axis is involved in the pathophysiology of gastrointestinal disorders such as irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, which are biopsychosocial diseases. The vagus nerve is the principal component of the parasympathetic nervous system and is considered as the sixth sense because of its role in interoceptive awareness. The vagus nerve is able to sense the microbiota to transfer this gut information to the central nervous system where it is integrated and then to generate an adapted or inappropriate response. The latter could perpetuate a pathological condition of the digestive tract or favor neurodegenerative disorders. Wow, this is in the introduction. This is not a chiropractic paper. This is in Frontiers of Neuroscience, and what they are saying right off the bat is that miscommunications between the nervous system and between the digestive organs can relate to pathological conditions and neurodegenerative disorders. Wow. If you are not aware of the chiropractic implications of that introductory sentence, I am so sorry. Come look at all of our past videos, all of them, and learn about how the digestive system and the nervous system are intricately related, and how, through chiropractic care, dressing for subluxation interferes with the function of the nervous system and its ability to control things like the digestive system. An abnormal vagal tone is described in IBS and IBD. Targeting the vagus nerve could restore homeostasis in such diseases. In particular, vagus nerve stimulation, approved for the depression and epilepsy and for its anti-inflammatory properties, should be of interest. Of course, because this is a medical paper, what they're looking at is implanting something and stimulating the vagus nerve that way. What we know, what we've seen, is that chiropractic care, by correcting interference to the nervous system, especially because of the proximity between the atlas C1 vertebrae, as well as the proximity of the atlas to the vagus nerve, as well as aberrant proprioceptive information going from the upper cervical spine to the brain, causing an imbalance of the parasympathetic nervous system, that the vagus nerve will be dysfunctional, most likely, in the presence of subluxation, and by correcting that very gently, very specifically, using specific scientific chiropractic adjustments, that homeostasis, that proper function, that proper balance between the vagus nerve, between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system can be restored. Now that is exciting. The human gut contains more microorganisms than cells of the body. That I didn't know, but that was absolutely just like mind-blowing to me. This communication between the brain and the microbiota is bidirectional. The multiple pathways, is bidirectional, though through multiple pathways. Neural through the vagus nerve and/or spinal cord, endocrine through the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal HPA axis, immune, which is cytokinase, and metabolic short-chain fatty acids. Okay, so this is exactly why I'm excited. We have broken down the role of subluxation in the HPA axis, okay, on numerous occasions to keep it as simple as possible. When in the presence of subluxation, misalignments of the spine, there's a bombardment of aberrant proprioceptive information up the spinal cord to basically the cortex. The cortex has a ton of influence over the limbic system, which specifically has a ton of influence over the HPA axis, and we can actually measure and see changes of that. We've done research breakdowns, we've done cartilage newsletters in the past regarding the role of subluxation for the proper function of the HPA axis. So when this paper discusses the role of vagal tone, right, the role of the communication, the bidirectional communication between not the digestive organs, but not only the digestive organs, but the actual microbiota of the body. As a chiropractor, you just have to be excited here. The vagus nerve contains 80% afferent fibers and 20% efferent fibers. 80% of the information that's transmitted through the vagus nerve is not going from the brain to the body, but from the body back up to the brain. So interference in the system here can literally distort the brain's perception of the environment and what is going on in the body, right? It's not just the bone on nerve sending messages down the arm. It's not just the brain saying, hey, the digestive organ should have peristalsis, and then it gets interfered on the way out. But more importantly, it's the way up. The brain is acting properly. The brain is performing properly. It's just responding to information that is incorrect. It's just responding to information that is incorrect. Maybe even the efferent, the going out signals are functioning properly and aren't distorted. But it's based off of incorrect information, right? It's like if somebody told you that the stock market is going to go up 700% in the next week, you would not be wrong to put all of your money into the stock market at that moment. But if that information was incorrect, right, even though your action was appropriate, it was based off of the incorrect information, and that's exactly what we're looking at here. This absolutely makes me so fantastic. They break down gut-to-brain interactions. There was some other stuff that I wanted to talk about here. They start to go into the role of stress in the vagus nerve and the microbiota. The effect of stress on the GI tract is well known. Stress through its neuromediators, corticotropin releasing factor, and related peptide urocortins, acting on their G proteins coupled CRF receptors located in the brain and the GI tract, increases intestinal permeability and modifies the gut microbiota. These two factors are involved in the pathophysiology of IBS and IBD. Just so excited here. Chronic early life stress induces dysbiosis in rats via modifications of intestinal permeability, which may later sensitize adult rats to visceral hypersensitivity. Classically, stress inhibits the vagus nerve and stimulates the sympathetic nervous system through autonomic-related projection neurons of the PBH to the dorsal motor nucleus of the vagus nerve and sympathetic preganglionic neurons of the spinal cord. Since the vagus nerve has anti-inflammatory properties through the afferent and efferent fibers, stress has thus pro-inflammatory properties. Chiropractic care isn't about reducing stress. It is not about, and you can argue with me on this, and I don't care. It's not about putting us in a bubble, right, and saying, eat this, don't eat this, drink this much water. It's not about saying, oh, you know what, we can make you feel much better if you just live in this bubble and never experience any of the stresses in your life. What it is about, rather, is reducing and correcting interference in the nerve system that stops our body from adequately being able to adapt and respond to such stress. Dr. Christopher Kent from On Purpose, who is my chiropractic celebrity crush, breaks down the difference between eustress, right, good stress and bad stress, and how by specific scientific chiropractic adjustments it allows our body to better be able to adapt to positive and negative stresses, and how with stress our body can actually grow. Anyway, this was the vagus nerve and the interface of the microbiota-gut-brain axis. What I want you guys to take from this research today is that they know, right? You can have whatever medical doctor tell your practice members, your patients, not to go see a chiropractor because they one time saw some neck injury that wasn't even chiropractic, blah, 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 or they had a professor that told them about all these horror stories when they were in medical school 20 years ago. You can have that, but the bottom line is that they know what we know. They just don't know what we do. So have certainty in knowing that yes, everything we do is neurologically based. If you can just influence the balance of the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system. If you can measure and see through measuring the changes in the autonomic system, specifically through thermal evaluations. If you can measure the difference as well as dyskinesis, which is another arm of subluxation, which is through something like SEMG. If you can see and measure these, show it with HRV, we know that we are making these changes. We know that the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems are functioning better. And when we can say, hey, you know what, if you've been suffering with these terrible digestive issues for years and years and years and years and years, and it's because of this miscommunication, which the medical doctors know, between the microbiota, the gut, the brain, and if we can restore that proper communication, we don't know that any symptoms going to improve, but we just know that they are going to live better.